in Suzi Q, an Australian journalist refers to you as the First Lady of Rock. And I have to come clean here. Before watching the documentary, I was not familiar with you. I knew about Joan Jett and Blondie and the Runaways, all the people that you inspired, but I wasn't aware of the person who inspired them. I wanted to know What's that?
I said I'm slapping your hand as you're speaking, but go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm not cool, so that shouldn't be a surprise.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it, right? That's fine.
But an overarching theme of the film is your overwhelming international acclaim, but sort of the cooler reception in the United States. I wonder if you could talk about how you came to appreciate the global success, even though you didn't quite achieve the recognition that you might have wanted to in your home country.
I think it was explained very well in the documentary, to tell you the truth. They weren't quite ready for me yet. I was just a little bit too early. I was touring in America very successfully from 74 onwards. I'd had already hits around the world. They gave me a lot of airplay on the radio stations, sold quite a few albums. Everybody definitely knew me, but then they didn't follow it up, And it took Happy Days really to show that kind of a character. I played Leather Tuscadero, and that's what really made everybody, I think, sit up and take notice of my kind of girl. So I broke the door down. I didn't maybe break it down exactly the same time as I did everywhere else in the world, but eventually you came to see me. But then I didn't go back to America for a long time. And this is where your not knowing it comes in. And most people know me from Happy Days. You didn't follow it, but I have been 56 years doing what I do now. I've never stopped. It's just, I don't know why they didn't follow up. I don't know. It's whatever happens, it happens how it happens. The good thing is America's rediscovering me again now, which is wonderful.
And I wanted to ask you about that because I think this documentary is a fantastic introduction or reintroduction for people into your music. Can you talk about how it came together? How did Liam and Tate reach out to you, or did you have mutual friends, or how did it come to do a documentary about your life?
I did do one about 18 years ago that got aborted. Long story short, was a friend of mine. She's still a friend of mine. In fact, she used to be the bass player for the Runaways. And one of the people that was in our aborted documentary didn't like her interview. So she wouldn't let it, and she had a lot of footage in there talking. So, and I don't want to name any names, but she didn't like it, so she took away permission. So that went by the wayside. Anyway, it's always on my bucket list. I always wanted to do a documentary of my life because I was the first, so there wasn't anybody. I didn't have a blueprint to look up to. I want to be like that. I was the first one. And I wanted people to know that everywhere. So I wanted the record put straight. This guy approached me, Liam. And he said to me, I'd like to do a documentary on you. He called me. And he said, I just want to tell you, first of all, that I'm not a fan, which really made me laugh. Just like you. You can be friends with you guys should form a club. I'm not a Suzi Quatro fan. Okay. And then I kind of went, like that. And he said, no. He said, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't like your music. I do like your music. I'm not a fan. I said, okay, fine. Not a problem. So why do you want to do the documentary? And he said, because I saw you on television on a talk show and you were fascinating. And so I thought to myself, all right, if I'm going to do a documentary, I want somebody like him who's going to be objective, who's going to stick for things that he wants, who maybe might ask some uncomfortable questions. And so I said, okay, I like your attitude. Let's get started. And I only laid a certain couple of ground rules down, which I stuck to. I said, I will insist on editing scissors, only for one reason. If something is not true, I must stick with it for truth. I don't want lies in my documentary. So if there's lies, that's coming out. But I don't mind people saying what they think, good or bad, absolutely fine with me. If it's all important to the story and shows you who the person is, I didn't make it easy, my life had its ups and downs, and there's been emotional things and blah, blah, blah. And he did the job. I liked his zinger question at the end. Don't give it away. But I like that zinger. He sure got it. I cry every time I see it. I didn't expect it. Little thinker, I said, okay.
Well, and your reaction definitely shows that was a great question, and I could tell you were really thinking about it. It wasn't sort of a rote answer,
No.
and it is a great capper to a film. You don't usually see these kind of rock documentaries where you are so emotionally invested that the viewer is crying at the end of it, unless the life ends in tragedy. But your story is continuing in a lot of ways, just getting started.
It is getting started. It's getting better and better. It is getting better. And a lot of people have said that, what you just said. I told Liam I was not interested in making a documentary where talking heads saying how wonderful I am. And my son pointed out that talking heads are in there saying how wonderful I am.
That's very true.
That's a great line. But I said I didn't want that. So I did want the warts and all. I wanted the whole thing. And of course I'm emotionally in it, that's how I am. I'm not a person who just does this, you'll never see me do that. Each interview I do, I give part of myself. I try not to answer the same way. I'm listening to you, I'm reacting to you.
Cool. And I do like the, not to give too much away about what's in the film, but your appreciation of the fans, which really comes across, especially in that last section, and making it possible for you to have the longevity you had. It really does come across as genuine. One thing I want to ask, you mentioned there was this aborted documentary, as you put it. I don't know how far along it got, but could you tell the difference between what that project might have become versus the final version of SUZI Q? Do you look at it, were you able to think about it and say, oh yeah, this was definitely better, or this would have been very different, or maybe they would have been the same?
I don't think they would have been the same. They were two different directors. Like I said, Vicky's still a good friend of mine. But when I did this one with Liam, I was really comfortable in my skin. It started 4 years ago. I got to the point where I had nothing left to prove, and I just love what I do. And, I just at a good place. I always says comfortable in my skin, even though it was leather. I was comfortable in it. And maybe I was still searching a little bit when I was doing it with Vicky. I don't know. It would have been a different film. Liam came at the right time and he did the right film. This is the right film.
One of the other themes that comes across in the film is this idea of generational creativity flourishing, starting with your parents. Your dad was sort of he was an entertainer, an entertaining kind of guy. And then you and your sisters, your parents encouraged that, that starting a band and all that. And now with your collaboration with your son, is that something that you've been conscious of over the decades, or is it a picture that kind of came into focus as you saw Liam's documentary come together?
I realized that I always knew I had that kind of situation. We worked together, the sisters, I used to go see my dad play. When I got to England, I married my guitar player, so it's always been, it's always been that kind of thing for me. I've never really thought about it. In fact, it was my son that focused on it. Just what you said. It was strange. I never really thought about it. But he said that he was finding it kind of strange sometimes working with his mother. And he said, don't you? And I said, no, because I've always worked with relations. It's always been that same. So, and for me, and my son saw that. I tell you, he doesn't like me to tell the story, but it's funny. When we went in to make our first, we were just making 3 demos because he wanted to write with me. I had no idea it was going to turn into the fantastic album it turned into. I had no idea. We were just working together, and 3 demos in, we went, this is serious stuff. It's the best rave reviews I've ever got for any of my music. Anyway, we were recording that first little demo, just having fun. So our first song we've written together, he's over here, I'm here, got a scratch mic playing, he's got his guitar. And he just stopped right in the middle of a take. And I went, what's the matter? He went, oh my God. All of a sudden I'm sitting across from Suzi Quatro. And I went to him, I did this, I went, and he went, nothing, ready? that was the little test, And so, no, I'm not your mother right now, no. Just like when I was with my ex-husband, I wasn't his wife in the band, no. When I'm working, and it excludes everything else. I am focused on my job.
Well, I want to talk about that too, and thank you for that perfect transition. In the film, a lot of your drive, your ambition from a very early age comes across, and you work very hard, obviously, to get where you are. But there's not a lot of talk about process in the movie. Maybe it's not dramatic or interesting enough. But can you tell me about your work ethic? Like, it, has it changed over the years? Have you let off the gas any in later years, or are you still kind of following the same process? And what is that process?
For me, it starts with a very old-fashioned, old school love and need. I would say need even more than love. Need to entertain people. That's where it originates from. I get up there and I want to see everybody uplifted and happy. And I'm not happy till I see that. So that never finishes for me. It doesn't matter if you did a great gig last night. Doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with tonight's gig. And that's my process. Just before I walk out, I never have ever made that mistake of saying, "Go, I'm going to kill him tonight." Oh, no. Just before you go out, what I usually think is, I hope they like me tonight. That's in my brain. So I am a worker. I am focused. I'm professional. When I'm out there, you get every inch of me. I give my all. I do it at every show. I give my all. And so much so I love it that even after a 2-hour show with a leather jumpsuit on and a bass guitar that weighs as much as me, jogging across the stage, I'm not even out of breath. That's crazy, isn't it? And I just turned 70.
Well, first of all, happy birthday. And second of all, it's not crazy because it's passion. You get swept up in what you love to do. And they say if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I feel like you work all the time, but you're still, yeah. Actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, before Happy Days, if I'm getting my memory of the doc right, acting wasn't really something that you were interested in or had really considered, aside from the performance on stage and singing and all that. But after you seem to have caught that bug, you did 3 seasons on the show, and then you did Annie Get Your Gun, and you did Ab Fab and children's educational videos and a lot of stuff that involved a different kind of performing, like scripted performing. Was that something that you discovered on Happy Days? Was it something that was awakened in you afterwards, or was it an ambition that you'd also had that you just kind of suppressed?
I didn't suppress anything. I always knew from the day I started in the business that I would do whatever the business offered me. I knew I could act. It's communication. I'm a communicator. I'm an entertainer. It didn't surprise me that I could act. I love being a DJ. I love doing a talk show. I like the communication of it. I love entertaining the people, whatever the genre may be. I was ready to take an acting part whenever one came along. Absolutely. I was there. I was in it. And I even said to Ron Howard, did I ever seem to you like I was a untrained new actress, new to the show? And he said, no. You slid right in like you had always been there. Now that's funny. So it was a natural thing. I can act. I knew it. And I knew that whatever was coming to me, if I wanted to do it, that I would do it. Love musicals. I've loved every single avenue I've taken. My main one being the rock and roll. That's my main entertainment, my main thing, but don't box me in. Don't. I won't let it happen. I want to be free. I want to be able to fly, spread my wings, and do everything that I can do. Is that so bad?
Not at all. No. I do want to ask, the one thing I thought was kind of funny was you did a commercial in Japan was it for sake, I think? There's a brief clip of you holding up the bottle and saying something. Do you know what you were saying? Or did they just say, here, say these lines?
No, I knew exactly. I was saying, oishi na, delicious. Oishi na. I actually did a song in Japanese. I did 15 tours there, and I actually got the Japanese translation and sang it in Japanese. That's dedication, isn't it?
That is. What was that like? How much training was involved in that?
I still remember the words. Yeah, that was difficult. They had to. I gave them the words in English, and they had to write it out phonetically for me, and then I had to memorize it. Crazy.
Wow.
Arigato gozaimasu. Minasan konnichiwa. I used to come out in one of those robes, and they'd be, going nuts, and I'd be like that and bowing, and then I'd throw it off and I had the leather suit on. That was good. That was one of my little ideas. So doing anything what doing,
I don't know if that was in the movie. I did see the bit about the wedding and all of that, but yeah, that would have been a hell of a thing to see. You coming out of the robes in the full getup.
It was, yeah, because they wondered, they're all going nuts, and I come out in that kimono, a very pretty one, and I'd shuffle across the stage, and then and there I was, and they all went, phew.
So one question, has your family seen the documentary, and what do they make of it? Some very interesting dynamics. Everything's very raw, and as you said, real in the film. What has been the reception, if you've gotten any feedback from them?
Yes. The two that were in it, they haven't contacted me at all since they've seen the film, which I find very puzzling. I didn't ask the questions. I wasn't there. They had their platform to speak. Surely they should be fine with what they said. I did send Christmas cards. I got nothing back or for my birthday. So yeah, it's up to them to contact me. It's a shame. It's a shame, but they just have to get over it. These things happen in families. I'm sure they will, but I didn't do anything wrong. All I did was make my documentary. And in fact, I was very kind all the way through, as everybody has said. But there must be issues. And it's now, after making this film, I can now finally say it's their problem and it's not mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Love them dearly. My eldest sister, she always says, I am a fan and I'm your sister. How about that? My brother called me the other day, my only brother. He had finally watched it. I sent it to him. His DVD broke down and he finally watched it. And he just said, picked up the phone and he said, Suzi, this film is a work of art. So good and bad. I hope they come to terms with whatever they need to come to terms with. I'm fine. I haven't argued. I haven't got a problem. They're in there. I let them have their say, which is what I said I would do, So whatever. But these things do happen in families. I talk about it all the time, especially when you've got people that were in the same business and one gets plucked out. You're never going to have that happen without a little bit of a problem, which I understand, which is why I'm always the one to downplay it and understand it and do this. I always am doing this. You saw me do it in the film. You see me hurt, yes, but I'm always going like this. But their reaction has kind of surprised me since I didn't give them a script for the answers. They were asked questions and they answered. So if I answer questions, I'm going to stand up with what I said and be okay with it. Wouldn't you?
Oh, always. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, last question. Tonight there's going to be a virtual screening and a virtual Q&A. What can fans expect from that? We just talked about, not giving scripted answers to questions. So I don't know if the answer is I can't expect anything because it hasn't happened yet. But what are you expecting out of this?
Oh, God. I love the Q&As. I love them. I've done many for different projects, many things like this. I love people to ask me what they want to know. And I love, you get sometimes a left hook, and you don't know it's coming. And I love awkward questions. Brilliant. And I don't mind what the questions are. In all honesty, I don't mind. As you can see, we've been talking. Ask me what you like. Ask me what you like, whatever's in your heart. And I'll do my best to give you the honest, heartful answer back without any agenda.
Well, that's definitely a rock and roll spirit. So I appreciate that. I'm excited for more people to see this movie because I am a fan of yours now. So.
Okay, I'll let you off the hook.
All right. Okay, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.